Hey 6th grade, we are on our final lesson of Module 8. It is Lesson 8.5, Identify and Generate Equivalent Algebraic Expressions. Make sure that you are on page 261 in your textbook. We'll start here at the top with our I can statement. I can use the properties of operations to determine if two expressions are equivalent and to generate equivalent algebraic expressions. So we have to start with the step it out section. Substitute the given value into both expressions and determine if the expressions have the same value. So that's just a whole bunch of words to say that we need to put 6 in place of x in both of these expressions, and then we're going to see if these two expressions equal the same. So we're going to put 6 in for x, so there's 6, and whoops, 6, oh my gosh. And I'm just going to complete one expression and then I'll move over and complete the other. So 6 squared is 6 times 6, it's not 6 times 2, 6 times 6 is 36 minus 5 times 6. And now we multiply, we have 36 minus 5 times 6, which is 30. So we have 36 minus 30, that equals 6. And then we do the same, or not the same thing, but we put 6 in for x up here. So we have x, and then in parentheses, x minus 5. So we substitute 6, and then a 6. Then we have to do what's in the parentheses, so 6 minus 5 is 1. That 6 on the outside stays the same. So 6 times 1 is 6. These expressions do or do not have the same value when x equals 6. Well, we have a 6 and a 6. So they do have the same value when x equals 6. For the hexagon shown, so this little guy right here, Linda says the perimeter can be found using the expression 4 times s divided by 2 plus 2s. David says that he can use the expression 4s to find the perimeter. Do the expressions have the same value when s equals 8? Not gonna lie, you guys, I hope they have the same answer because David's expression has so many, far fewer steps than Linda's. So we start by substituting the 8 for the s. So there's that. Next up we have to divide. 8 divided by 2 is 4. We don't do anything with this 8, so it stays the same. 4 times 4 is 16 plus 2 times 8 is also 16. Now we add. 16 plus 16 is 32. And David says that we can just multiply 4s and get the same answer. So let's put in 8 for s. 4 times 8 is 32. These expressions do or do not have the same value when s equals 8. Well, looks like they do. Personally, I would go with David's method. Linda made it very complicated. Alright, equivalent expressions. And guys, these are all words that you will have in your vocabulary, the various properties. And these are going to come in really handy for what we're doing coming up. So, identify the properties to determine if the expressions are equivalent. So, let's see here. We have 4, then inside the parentheses, a plus 2b plus 4a. And 8 is on the outside of the parentheses, a plus b. So we have to figure out if those are equivalent equivalent expressions. Okay. So for this first one, we wind up using the distributive property. And I'm hoping I'm spelling that correctly, because we multiply both terms inside the parentheses by 4. So that's where we wind up with 4a plus 4 times 2b is 8b. Then we still add that 4a. Then we can start adding things. So we have 4a plus 4a plus 8b. When you are adding numbers, you can use the commutative property, which states that you can change the order of the numbers that you are adding. You can change the order they go in. So I could do 4a plus 8b plus 4a. Here we have 4a plus 4a plus 8b. You can put them in any order you want, and it will not change the sum. For this part, we're doing the distributive property again, just backwards. So you'd have 4a plus 4a. So yep, distributive property. We can also add what's inside the parentheses, which would be 4 plus 4, and it would give us 8a plus 8b. Or then again, since we have the same factor next to the a and next to the b, we can set it up to do the distributive property again. Alright. So 4 times the sum of a plus 2b plus 4a is or is not equivalent to 8 times the sum of a plus b. And yes, they are equivalent to one another. Alright, question B. 8xy plus 5xy and 3xy. Let's see if those two are equivalent. So here's one of our expressions and there's the other. So we have 8xy plus 5xy. Well, there we go. We're using the distributive property again. And then, when we add what is inside the parentheses, 8 plus 5 is 13, we wind up with 13xy. Is 13xy equivalent to 3xy? Nope, it is not. On to page 263. Alright, a triangle is drawn so that starting from the shortest side, each side is 1 unit longer. The expression s plus the sum of s plus 1 plus the sum of s plus 2 gives the perimeter of the triangle. Each of the s terms are like terms and they can be combined. That'll be something that's very important, is this whole idea of like terms and how they can be combined. Unlike terms cannot be combined. Like terms, go for it. Okay, so for this first, here's our original expression, s plus the sum of s plus 1 plus the sum of s plus 2. So when they take everything and just move it all around and move our add-ins around, we wind up using the associative property of addition. I hope I'm spelling that correctly. Alright. Because with the associative property, when we're adding more than two numbers, the grouping of the numbers does not change the sum. So it doesn't matter how we put these numbers into groups. If all we're doing is adding them, we can group them however we want. For the second example, it's the commutative property of addition. Because the commutative property states that when you're adding, changing the order of the numbers does not change the sum. So we've scrambled them all up, scrambled all the add-ins together again. We would still wind up with the same sum. And then, oh man, here we are changing the groups again. And when you're adding, you can put the groups in any order you want. and you still wind up with the same sum. So that is the associative property. Then down here for this last blank, this one winds up being the distributive property, because when we fill in the S next to the parentheses, we still would wind up with S times 1 times S times 1 times S times 1. So we're using the distributive property, which shows us, and then we wind up seeing that 3S plus 3 is as far as we can go, because if we have 3 times S, we cannot add it to a plain 3. Those are unlike terms. We're going to skip down here to the bottom, and we are going to do the check understanding real quick, because that's about all we have time for. So we have to rewrite the first expression to determine whether the expressions are equivalent. And we have 8x plus 4y equals something or another. 8x plus 4y is or is not equivalent to 4 times the sum of 2x plus 1. So I'm going to divide by 4, because 4 goes into both 8 and 4. So I'm going to put 4 on the outside of my parentheses. 4 goes into 8 2 times, plus 4 goes into 4 once, so I can just put a plain old y. So I'm just making sure I didn't miss something up there. So 8x plus 4y is or is not equivalent to 4 times the sum of 2x plus 1. And when we take a look here, that we can see that it is not equivalent. Alright. Next we're going to use the distributive property to see if 3 times the sum of k plus 3 is equal to 3k plus 9. So I'm going to multiply everything in the parentheses times the number that's right next to it on the outside. So we have 3k plus 3 times 3, which is 9. So 3 times the parentheses of k plus 3 is or is not equal to 3k plus 9. And it is equivalent. Alright, kiddos, we are going to stop here. You need to make sure that you bring all of your notes to class, and I will check those and your vocabulary words and everything when we're at school. So yeah, I'll see y'all soon. Bye.